This reflection is from our third St. Peter's chaperone, Valerie Donoghue, who, with poetic irony, went from Alaska to Mammoth, California to go skiing in the snow. But Valerie offers this. 21 people and 3 bathrooms. Lights out at 10 p.m., even though there was still daylight. Rain misting, and sometimes more than misting, every day. Mosquitoes. Minimum 5-mile hikes in steep terrain with often muddy footing. And did I mention the mosquitoes? Against this backdrop, which might sound daunting to some, we overlaid a soulfully beautiful spiritual pilgrimage. But this was not a pilgrimage that brings to mind following the footsteps of the apostles or walking through ancient sites that hold exceptional holy moments or relics, or tracing Christ's presence in the Holy Land. It was a simpler pilgrimage, one that thrust us centrally into God's presence, his creation. Our home for 6 days was a picture-perfect, fairly large log cabin whose views, when the rain clouds lifted, were of majestic mountains all around. Calm, slate-gray bays in which fish jumped abundantly, and seals chased them and played, and the bald eagles soared over. From our lodge was a small causeway that led to an island on which a stone church had been built in the 1930s. It was tucked into gorgeous pine trees, and the point on which it sat gave one a greater view of more open water. For me, after entering the simple church once, there was no need to do it again. God's church was outside, the sound of water lapping against the rocks, the splash of fish as they skipped across the waves, the cry of eagles overhead, and the soft barking of seals. It was wonderful to see how all the teenagers were taken in by the beauty. Although together most of the time, often 1 or 2 or 3 would wander towards the small forested island or down to the rocks on the bay for their personal reflection time. 3 churches came together for our time in Alaska, teens from St. Peter's, Christchurch Coronado, and St. Luke's North Park. As Mother Paige stated in her sermon during a service we held the day before we left, everyone who was meant to be on the pilgrimage was there. God's hand was in the melding of our youth from different parishes. And they came together beautifully, cooking and cleaning in teams, hiking and helping each other on the long treks, working to move 2.5 tons of gravel for the U.S. Forest Service on one of the Mendenhall Glacier trails, and I will say doing so in only 90 minutes. Half the time the Forest Service thought it would take us to do so. They actually told us it would take them 3 days to do what we did in an hour and a half. Our kids worked really hard. Helping clean the beach and repair a wall on the property of St. Therese where we stayed, playing energetic games of cards, praying together every day as we held morning, afternoon, and evening devotions, and singing as Adam led us with his wonderful voice and guitar playing through the songbook he specially compiled for this journey. One of the definitions I read of the word pilgrimage stated it was a journey through life, one that I think is so apt for our time in Alaska. It was a journey that allowed us to meet a local Tlingit man who came and spoke with us on how he is helping, almost single-handedly, to teach the language of the native Alaskans in Southeast Alaska before it disappears, and to meet a master totem carver and help him carve a substantial piece of wood into a story. On reading the reflections some of the teens wrote and listening to the comments they shared, I know that this pilgrimage, this journey, will be a memory and experience they will carry for life, and I can only say, praise be to God.